Also says she slept with Emmanuel Acho in hopes and efforts to get a show with him. Well, the most damning part about that is that actually happened. They got a show together. Coincidence?
The legal complaint filed against Fox Sports 1 stars Joy Taylor and Skip Bayless is getting a lot of attention right now, and major players in sports media, they are reacting to the shocking allegations. While some say the claims are too outrageous to be believed, others say parts of the story don't surprise them. We're going to take a look at some of the responses and get our own reaction from sports attorney Dan Lust. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Hey, so before we go any further on this, I have a big announcement for you guys. The video version of Sidebar is now available on Spotify. That's right. We are so thankful for your guys' support of Sidebar. Us getting this show on Spotify video is just truly due to how loyal this audience is, so thank you so much for that. And yes, you can now watch and listen on the go, from Diddy to the United Healthcare murder updates to crazy court moments. It is all on Spotify. So right now, you can scan the QR code on screen or click the link in the description to follow Sidebar on Spotify. Since Nushin Faraji's lawsuit against Fox Sports 1 blasted out across the internet over the weekend, it has been the talk of the sports world. Two of the network's biggest personalities are in some hot water, along with a company executive, all for possibly really bad behavior on the job. Now, Faraji, a hairstylist and makeup artist who had worked for the network for more than a decade, filed an individual complaint on behalf of herself, as well as a complaint that she hopes will become a class action lawsuit on behalf of herself and other former coworkers who believe that they weren't paid correctly. And among the reported misdeeds are accusations of sexual harassment, hostile work environment, inappropriate touching, even an alleged offer of $1.5 million for sex. Faraji says that offer came from Skip Bayless, a former sports commentator for Fox Sports who's now in his 70s, hosts his own podcast on his social media. But Faraji says that she started working with Bayless in 2016 when her friend Joy Taylor was brought in to be the moderator for a new debate-style show called Undisputed with Skip and Shannon. Now, Taylor requested Faraji be the one who did her hair for the show, and eventually Bayless started coming to Faraji once a week for a haircut. And Faraji claims that Bayless started to get more handsy with her, making excuses to touch her, going in for long hugs where he pressed up against her, gave her kisses, that sort of thing. And that eventually led to him essentially begging her for sex, or allegedly, that's what the allegation is, and allegedly offering that huge sum of money for Faraji to sleep with him. So while Faraji was reportedly fending off these purported advances from Skip Bayless, she says Ms. Taylor was walking a fine line herself, reportedly having a sexual relationship with two of her co-workers at the same time. Taylor reportedly began a relationship with the executive vice president of content, Charlie Dixon, soon after she moved to Los Angeles from Miami when she was just dipping her toe into the Hollywood TV business. That relationship, according to Faraji, led to at least one divorce, Taylor's, and more than one face-off between lovers. And Faraji believes Taylor's relationship with Dixon helped her go from a former radio personality with little TV experience to the host of FS1's biggest new shows with legends like, again, Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharpe. Now, the gig only ended up lasting a couple of years before there was a falling out between Sharpe and Bayless and the show was canceled. But Faraji's lawsuit claims at some point Taylor was also allegedly sleeping with Emmanuel Acho, and eventually the two were selected to co-host a show. So the complaint states that Ms. Faraji became alarmed, warned Ms. Taylor that she should probably not sleep with Mr. Dixon and Mr. Acho at the same time because Mr. Dixon is a very powerful man that may become very angry. Ms. Taylor told her not to worry about it. She explained that she was also now powerful, and once Mr. Dixon was no longer useful to her, she would follow through on her plan to tell the company that he forced himself on her. She would not allow herself to be forced out by Mr. Dixon like other women talent. Bombshell there, right? So whatever your moral or ethical feelings are about these kind of relationships, that's not really the issue. It's rather the power dynamic that was reportedly playing out here, because Faraji claims that she had a falling out with Taylor and that she allegedly created a hostile work environment for her by discriminating and harassing her because of her accent. She's Iranian. And because of her claimed disability, humming as a form of coping with PTSD. She said Taylor was very aggressive towards her on both of these counts. And that's when it becomes an issue of should Fox Sports be stepping in to handle these kinds of things. Well, Faraji claims that out of all of this drama, it culminated in her losing her job. And Taylor, Bayless, Dixon, they are all named as individual defendants in the lawsuit alongside Fox Sports, several of its offshoots. And in a statement over the weekend, Fox Sports said it wouldn't be commenting on pending litigation. As of this recording, none of the individuals named have said anything about the scandal. They appear to be, chugging along, business as usual. Some are on the air, but things did seem maybe a little tense and off kilter with a normally effervescent Taylor, because this was her on the Speak on Monday.
It's Victory Monday for some and Vacation Monday for others, but for the ones who did have Victory Monday,
kick them on the way out the door.
And some commentators pointed out that the legal drama may be one of the reasons Bayless is not on a network right now.
We will see how that whole thing plays out. All right, did you see this?
It kind of explains why Skip Bayless is no longer on TV.
Yeah. If these allegations turn out to be true, but yes, that's something.
Somebody at Fox knew that those allegations were coming.
It seems like it, yes.
All right, so to talk about the lawsuit, to talk about several reactions rolling in from the sports world, because you have more that we want to talk about, I want to bring in sports attorney Dan Lust to talk more about it. Dan, good to see you. I hate having Dan on because his hair compares to mine. It's just incredible. My gosh. Anyway, what was your reaction when you first heard about this lawsuit?
Yeah, Jesse, great being on with you. I mean, what reaction did I not have? This lawsuit touches upon so many different elements, upon so many different talents over the course of 6 different years. So my initial reaction was, how would this impact Fox's on-air programming? I think that was the biggest kind of question mark in all of this. Do you take Joy Taylor off the air? Do you remove Skip entirely? Do people get fired as a result of this? In this Me Too era, in this cancel culture era, what happens? What does Fox Sports do? So Fox, as you've kind of noted, put out this detailed statement on Sunday. When we turn to this week, Joy Taylor is still very much on air, as you showed that clip. So that was my initial question. And Fox maybe took a controversial approach and took no action. So, yeah, I mean, obviously they're investigating.
Why do you think they did that?
That's a great question. I mean, more often than not, when you see an allegation like this, and we see it in sports all the time, if there's a bombshell allegation, the team takes a pause and maybe we'll have someone sit out a game, put them on the commissioner's exempt list or the admin list in the actual sports context. In an actual employment context, you could take someone off air for a week as you conduct an investigation or, give them, paid leave, whatnot. Fox has taken no position. And maybe, that's a stance by Fox that they're standing by their talent. I mean, that's the easiest way to view it. I'm not sure I agree with that position, but that's certainly what Fox Sports is giving the impression of.
And I mean, she's accused of not only harassing Faraji, but she's also accused of essentially leveraging sexual relationships to get ahead and then planning to turn on Dixon, saying he forced himself on her. It makes me wonder, real quick before we move on, did they not remove her from the air? Did they not remove anybody? Did they not take any action? Because if they did so, it would, kind of substantiate the claims that are being presented by Ms. Faraji. It would say that they have some sort of credibility.
Certainly I could see that. And I think to your point, these allegations have tentacles, right? They're not just Joy Taylor. They're not just Skip Bayless. They're not just Emmanuel Acho. They come down from Dixon all the way through the top, through HR. If you go through this complaint, there's allegations that HR did not, claim that they did not have sensitivity training and didn't know how to handle these type of situations. So these allegations, if you take Joy Taylor off the air, right, it gives credibility to all the allegations. That said, it's not what most major companies would do in light of these allegations. They would have some type of PR response. But here, right, it's the inaction that I think people are talking about more than anything.
I'm going to get into what do you think about the strength of this lawsuit in a minute, but I want to get more into the responses to all of this controversy. So first, we have Shannon Sharpe. So he is mentioned by name in the lawsuit. He's not accused of any kind of wrongdoing by Faraji, but the main idea here is that Faraji had claimed that Skip Bayless kept harassing her, confronting her, accusing her of sleeping with Shannon Sharpe. She says that never happened. And he gave a brief response to the allegations on Sunday night on his YouTube show, Nightcap, basically saying this has nothing to do with him.
I don't know why if you notice, everybody's posted it. They got me. In the 42 pages, it don't mention nothing about Shannon Sharpe did anything. But y'all want to get clicks, so y'all mention me.
Dan, I mean, he had to respond, right? He had this pretty open feud with Skip Bayless in the past. I think there's some bad blood there. He's mentioned in the complaint. What did you make of that response?
Shannon Sharpe is correct in some sense, right, that he's not a defendant in this lawsuit, but his name is all over this complaint. There's a quote that I particularly pulled. It's a comment from Skip Bayless, that you can't, that the plaintiff here can't be, quote, doing a big thing with my arch rival. And that was, Skip Bayless's accusation that she was sleeping with Shannon Sharpe. So Sharpe's got to comment on this in some way, shape, or form. But I disagree with Sharpe that his name is being mentioned because it's clickbait. His name is all over this complaint, and there are allegations of sexual misconduct with a number of people within the company. So yeah, a lot of things can be accurately described as clickbait. Shannon Sharpe is a central figure of this complaint, despite the fact that he's not a defendant. So I kind of disagree with Sharpe's take there.
Yeah, but he's not like, she didn't say he did anything wrong. She didn't even say having any kind of like interactions with him per se, things that he said. It's just more like he became a central figure in, if you take her allegations as true, why Skip Bayless, had this hostility towards her, this jealousy. And so he does play a role, but again, this is her allegations. This is her narrative of what happened.
Yeah, but from an undisputed perspective, and no pun intended, as that was the name of Skip and Shannon's former show, she is, central. And if Shannon Sharpe is going to link his career, for which he did for a period of time, to Skip Bayless, and Skip Bayless is, of course, a central figure to this complaint, he has to respond to that, right? And I'll say this. It's very unlikely that Shannon didn't know about these allegations as they were occurring, right? She's alleging she was with the company from 2016 to 2024, of which overlap with a significant period of time with Sharpe and Bayless's tenure at the company. So yeah, Shannon, I will say common sense tells us that Shannon Sharpe knew of this going on behind the scenes.
Talk about people that know Skip Bayless. I got to talk about Stephen A. Smith. So Smith and Bayless, they worked together previously at ESPN on a show called First Take before Bayless had left for Fox Sports 1. And Smith said, he doesn't know Faraji, but he's spoken with people who do, and they say how meticulous she is, how detail-oriented, that she documents things. And in fact, in her lawsuit, it contains apparent excerpts from a journal that she was apparently keeping that could be, critical to her side of the story if it could be authenticated. But Smith went on to say that he can only base his opinion off of the Skip Bayless that he knows, and this just doesn't sound in any way like something he would do.
I don't know what happened. But just like I said, I've known Jay-Z for 25 years. I can't imagine that. I've known Skip for just as long. I can't imagine it. I can't imagine it. Especially when they brought up the $1.5 million. The Skip Bayless I know has a hard time giving away $15. He's one of the cheapest people I know. That's just me.
Such a great response. I mean, we're talking about some serious subject matter, but such a Stephen A. Smith response, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is the comment that at least we're having in my legal circles. Meticulous, detail-oriented. Those are the adjectives. I mean, I don't know the plaintiff at all, right? And Stephen A. Smith might, because he's in those media circles, right? In those circles that might know her directly. But for you and I just reading this complaint, and any lawyer or someone that's interested in the case reading this complaint, this does speak to a meticulous and detail-oriented person. And we haven't mentioned the term here. If someone comes out with these allegations and they are false, right? They are created with actual malice. This opens herself up to a very heavy defamation lawsuit, right? But someone with those type of excerpts and quotes, and there's portions of the complaint where she's using a recording device and she has journal entries. Again, to the extent all of those things can be authenticated, this doesn't speak to someone that's coming up with these things out of thin air. It's not someone that was with the company for, as we say in the sports world, a cup of coffee. It was someone that was with the company for 6 years and has detailed email correspondence throughout the company. This just doesn't scream like someone that was with the company again for 30 seconds and is making up these allegations. Again, these all do remain allegations, but the comments with respect to Skip Bayless are very pointed, very specific. They're actual, alleged to be quotes. So again, whatever Stephen A. Smith is fine, but what could happen behind closed doors, or as is alleged in Skip Bayless's car in the parking lot, could be very different than the person that might be known in a colloquial sense.
It's a great point. It's a great point. I just thought it was interesting, even from a kind of defense, if he's saying he's so cheap, he would never be the kind of person that would offer $1.5 million to sleep with somebody. But we put that to the side. I want to now talk about Marcellus Wiley, one of the hosts who seems to have been lost in the shuffle of moderators of Fox Sports 1 shows. So Wiley had worked for Fox between 2018 and 2022. He was a co-host on Speak for Yourself. Now it's called Just Speak. And he left in 2022, and that's when a rebrand happened, bringing in Taylor and LaShawn McCoy as new co-hosts. And Taylor, by the way, still hosts Speak, but with different co-hosts. Wiley talked about the lawsuit on YouTube earlier this week. Here's a portion of what he had to say.
Reason I can't go there is because, one, I wasn't in the bedroom with any of them, and two, listen to me, I never heard that Charlie Dixon and Joy Taylor were sleeping together. But upon hearing that, I'm not going to lie to y'all, it makes a lot of things make sense. It unlocks a lot for me.
And Wiley seemed to imply that there may have been more going on than he knew when it came to his departure.
Unlocking the piece of Charlie, let me just stay on that for a second, if true. Woo-wee! I'm looking at my history and I'm looking at the history of a lot of other talents on that network a lot differently, in a really bad way.
Now, Wiley does say that there are certain parts of the lawsuit he can speak to directly because he was told about it at the time. For example, he says he had heard many times about Taylor's sexual relationship with, or alleged sexual relationship with, Emmanuel Acho.
She accused somebody in that lawsuit, and then I know the people in the lawsuit, and I'm like, yeah, they told me that. And I never thought of it in this context because it was never unlocked until the allegations of, oh, this was all the way from the top.
Now, in an interview he did with former sports columnist Jason Whitlock, Wiley says he has lawyers who have approached him after his podcast aired wanting to know if he wants to try to take some legal action against Fox Sports himself. He told Whitlock, lawyers are reaching out to me because when they saw me get surprised by the allegations, especially the one about Charlie Dixon, they said that is actionable. Dan, your thoughts?
I mean, it's tough to say. I will say one thing, right? Wiley's out of a job, and again, the allegation, the complaint, and I think seemingly in all reports is that Acho replaced Wiley, right? So he might have an axe to grind with respect to this lawsuit, in particular. I'm not sure of the viability of Wiley's claims here, right? That again, this is a retaliation case. It's a hostile work environment. Wiley hasn't given us details as to why he was let go, right? Other than maybe just a shift in cultures. But if you can prove, right, that Wiley lost his job because of this alleged misconduct in the hiring practices and the, we'll say show programming practice of Fox Sports, that might be actionable. That's not exactly what we heard in that clip. But again, it does speak a little bit to this complaint. And again, admissions by Ms. Faraji in the complaint, where she admits that her and Mr. Acho were in a sexual relationship. There might be something there that a lawyer retained by Wiley might want to investigate as to why Acho was given that show. Again, as lawyers, you can't pursue a frivolous claim, but there's enough smoke here that I think it would make sense for Wiley to have those conversations with lawyers to see if there is something more tangible there.
Now I want to give a perspective from a different side. So I want to finish this up with Dave Portnoy, founder of Barstool Sports. So he took to X, formerly known as Twitter, on Monday, and he had this to say. My BS meter is on 100 million trillion in this Fox Sports lawsuit. Just accusing people of S doesn't make it facts. Time will tell. I will say I think all the accused shouldn't listen to their lawyers, plus should loudly be defending themselves if they are innocent. And he followed that up with this. Who effing cares if they had a consensual relationship or not? And since when is Acho some heavyweight who gets people promoted? I honestly don't even know why Joy Taylor is in the lawsuit. Because she was mean to her hairdresser, yet simultaneously spilled her guts to her? Makes zero sense. And when followers had asked him what he knew about what was going on behind the scenes, he posted again, I got no inside info on this lawsuit. I just think it stinks to high heavens and feels like a shakedown, so I'd reserve judgment before burying people. Now, Dan, I want your reaction to this because Dave Portnoy has been involved in these kinds of high-profile cases. He's been accused, of sexual misconduct. And what he did is he went out right in front of it. He went on social media. He said he had the receipts to disprove the claims that were being asserted against him. It seems that he is suggesting these individuals do the same kind of thing. What's your take on his response?
Yeah, Dave Portnoy, and certainly he's no stranger to our sports law community. Portnoy is somewhat Teflon, right? He has these type of allegations against him, and as you pointed out, he pursues them and defends them very aggressively. So that's Portnoy's perspective, and I think he comes with a bias and as to any type of bombshell complaint and bombshell allegations against someone. Here's Dave Portnoy on the other end, who has lived to fight another day on multiple occasions. That said, right, we see lawsuits like this all the time, right? The comments with respect to Joy Taylor maybe aren't all actionable, right? Because these are complaints as in against Fox Sports. But why are we having the conversation here? Why is social media buzzing? Because of the comments and allegations with respect to Joy Taylor. So the way, the general rules of a complaint, right? You actually have to allege enough facts sufficient to get into court. You have to, satisfy Iqbal and Twombly and all that fun stuff we learned in law school. But, you want to have some smoke and sizzle to this complaint to get people's attention, to get people talking about it. So I understand Portnoy's point, and I understand the plaintiff's attorney's strategy here in getting the public's attention on this. So I understand why Joy Taylor was named in this complaint, and I understand why every detail of Joy Taylor's respect to her allegations is listed here, because you and I are talking about it, and it's really the trending on social media the last couple of days. So certainly get that. But to Portnoy's point, right, the plaintiff bears the burden of proof here. So we cannot convict anybody based off of the words in a complaint. But again, you and I sitting here, there is some detail and meticulousness to this complaint that we don't ordinarily see in complaints of this sort. So that's at least my initial take on it.
You mentioned social media. Let me end on this because former NFL wide receiver Antonio Brown kept his response to the lawsuit quite simple at first, posting a photo of one of the most evocative office relationships in history, a picture of President Bill Clinton and White House intern Monica Lewinsky in the Oval Office. And he captioned it, Charlie Dixon and Joy Taylor. We'll end with there. Dan Luss, good seeing you. Thanks so much for taking the time. Appreciate it.
My pleasure, Jesse. Anytime.
All right, everybody, that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.